and we'll start a new project. The tutorial guides you, gives some advice about where to put your new project. A concern with SWAT is that sometimes there's like permission, it ends up needing permissions to do certain things. The tutorial suggests you make a folder in your C drive, and you could call it something like this. This is exactly the wording they use in the tutorial document, or QSWAT projects or something like that. So I make it in my C drive because of permissions issues. You can make it in your documents drive. For now, if you are able to make it in your C drive, I would do that. Some people's C drives can be locked if you're on a networked computer or something like that. But if you're able to, make it in your C drive for now. Make a folder, so you just right-click and go New Folder, and you give it a name like QSWAT plus projects. It needs to be a different folder. This is the folder where the software executable actually sits. So your projects actually need to be in a different folder to that one, which is a bit, or it helps if they are. I'm not sure if it's going to cause problems if they're not, but it's better safe, I think, to put it in a different folder. So make like a projects folder. And then when you go to, so now that you have your QSWAT plus projects folder, or your SWAT plus projects folder, you can go here and you can say, go back to your SWAT plus window. Oh yeah, so I made it in here. And then you select that as where you're going to put your new project. Okay. They say go all the way to making the folder in here. Okay, so when you're in the parent directory, I already started this. I'm going to start a new one so that I go along with you. So inside your projects folder, make another folder. You can call it Robot. I'm going to call this one Robot 2. And I select new SWAT plus project. And then you also enter a project name. You'll see how these things come out into the folder structure that it's going to make for us. Just call it Robot 2. And then once you have told it where to store things, it should show you the steps you can use to build your watershed model, your catchment model. So the first step we're going to do is delineating watersheds, and then the next one is creating those HRUs. So it's going to combine land cover and soils and slopes and make HRU units for you. There's a process. And then you edit the inputs and you run, and it will take us automatically over into that software, the SWAT editor program. So the first step to do is going to be delineating. So you can go ahead and click on Delineate Watershed. And what it needs to delineate the watershed is a DEM, digital elevation maps. This is topography. So we're going to go through how I've already picked sets of data for the uMngeni catchments for this, but you can think through what data you have available as we go through if you were to do this for your own catchment. And then we can talk about what we'll actually use. You can see if we need to modify what I've started with. But for the sake of, like, this example has all the input data for the robot catchment prepared. So, and the tutorial document will tell you where to find everything. So we're gonna start with loading the DEM. With DEMs, so the tutorial document gives you some background information on each step as well. So one thing about your spatial data that helps, and that they mention in the tutorial as well, that everything needs to be DEM or some projection that uses meters versus decimal degrees is a better bet, because the software needs to calculate area a lot. And if your data is in decimal degrees, it's a messier process. So I think I was working in a UTM projection. We can talk more about projections later, but it's a good thing to know, and we can talk about what projection you typically use at uMngeni Water as well. So this, all the robot data has already been projected for us. So EM for the robot example is going to be in, it's in the example data folder, example data sets robot. So what you can do, what the tutorial as it's written has you do for all these steps is to navigate back to your SWAT folder, SWAT plus folder, example data sets and robots to find the various data that you need. What you can do is copy this over to your new project folder. I know it's getting a little complicated. Well, not complicated, but it gets a bit messy with these two folders, both called robots. And I found that a bit of a shortcoming in the way the tutorial instructions are. It's not a problem, but you have to remember when are you going to the example data sets robots and when are you going to your project file robots. So what you can do if you want to, and what I did when I did this for myself, was in Windows Explorer, you navigate to the folder, the SWAT folder and the SWAT plus folder where the software itself sits and the example datasets folder sits. I went and I copied everything in this robot example datasets robot. I copied this and I pasted it into my project folder so that I didn't have to keep toggling back between that folder within the software. Oops, I got my project folder. So I pasted it in here. When you start a project, it makes these files for you: scenarios, watershed, your QGIS project, and these other databases that we'll go into. So I'd suggest going ahead and doing that because I think it's going to make our lives easier. So again, I'm pasting everything that was in the example sets robot folder. I've gone ahead and pasted it into my projects folder. Because otherwise you're going back and forth between two different folders called robot, and you have to pay attention to which one you're in. But now everything's in one and it's all in your projects one. So then when I select my DEM, I'm in my projects folder. I'm calling it robot 2 because I've done this before. And then I go to DEM. And this is a SRTM. It's a freely available source of DEM data for people who don't know it. And QGIS functions a little bit differently to ArcGIS. And that's why when you try and open things, you see all these subfolders that you might not if you work in ArcGIS. And the one you want to pick to load the DEM, it says it in the tutorial PDF as well, is this hdr.adf. And you're gonna open it. And then it's gonna throw you a processing window every now and then. Don't worry, I know it's almost 4. We're gonna stop at 5.2 and do a recap. But I just want to show you this part so that you can start. So mine has loaded the DEM. It makes a project for you in QGIS. And it colors things for you nicely. So it's loaded the DEM file. And that has elevation for every grid cell. And it colors it pretty nicely. And it puts a hill shade on it so you can see the topography fairly nicely. And then it uses SWAT, then delineates channels based on the topography for you. If you have channels you wanted to make sure that it uses, you can burn those. It needs to use the topography to delineate what subcatchment areas feed to what channel. But if you have existing stream networks, you can like essentially burn them in to make sure that it conforms to the stream network that you want it to. This is not really essential. I've checked what it does for our catchments, and I didn't need to do it, but we do it in the example. That is, if you had a shapefile of river channels you wanted to force it to use, you can burn it in. So the example has us go, you click burn in. And when it says burn in, it just means it's going to drop the elevation of the topography along that line. So it's robot streams. You pick a robot reach shapefile, and it would pick up there. And that means that that's a shapefile of streamlines. You can see it's actually showing up already. It's in yellow in my case. You see it there. It's going to force the stream delineation to follow that to more or less. And then the other thing you have to pick, and this is something I'm going to stop after we do this, and it's something it's nice to play with on your own later. You pick a threshold of land area that would define a stream. So if all of the runoff from like 50 hectares came together at once, it would be enough runoff to carve a stream channel, for example. And so it's a threshold of area that's going to make a stream, and they have a threshold of area that's going to make a channel. And in SWAT, channels are smaller than streams, and every stream gets a subcatchment. Channels don't get subcatchments, but they're extra channels like within the subcatchment. So it's a bit, you don't have to do those separately. You don't have to do two different levels. We can just do one level and everything's a stream. And in that case, you would put the same number in here. But in the demo, they say 9 square kilometers, which is 100 of their, Oh, I see. So that's another thing. Mine is automatically in square kilometers here. You can change it to hectares. The example PDF has hectares, but essentially they want 100 cells, 100 grid cells, which is 9 hectares, or 0.09 square kilometers. It's going to make a channel, and 1,000 is going to make a stream. And then you would click create streams. And I'm going to go ahead and click it, and then I'm going to stop talking and recap because it's very close to 4. This step does take a little bit of time, but I will show you what it's going to look like. And it's something you can play with because it's something you have to work out with every model you build in SWAT, is what is the area of land that's going to define a stream. So if you have a big area of land to make a stream, you'll have very few stream channels. If you have a very small area of land is enough to make a stream, then you'll have lots of tiny little stream channels. So we'll stop there. Oh, mine, I already did it. That was cool. That was quick. So you can see what it did. This area is flat. You can ignore it over here, but this area is the one we're looking at for our example. And it used the topography, and it looked where the topography concentrates, and it delineated stream and channel lines. So that's our first step. And then in the next step, it's going to start doing catchments, subcatchments for these, and then HRUs. But we'll do that next time. So we've covered a lot of stuff. We're gonna, in that PDF document of the tutorial, I'd like you to read through sections 1 to 6. You can try and finish it on your own. We didn't get as far into it as I thought we might, and I thought that might happen. So don't feel like you have to get all the way through on your own. We will do some of it next week, but we'll do it fairly quickly. So if you do have a chance, and you want to try working through these sections, it will help to have had a look at it. I'll dedicate part of the time next week to get a bit further than we actually did on that. But for people who were able to, who do have it loaded on their computer, were you able to get the DEM to open? Did anybody get the DEM to open in this SWAT file? In their QGIS file? Nobody?
Could I share my screen just to confirm if it did?
Yes, sure. Yeah. No, that's exactly what we want. That's working. Great.
Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. So it's opening and it's working. Okay, cool. Anybody who's having trouble can ask Sunny. Yeah, we'll keep progressing through it. And we will do some of it, as I say, we will do some of that tutorial together next week as well. But yeah, it will help if you have some time to step through it on your own too. You've got the software, you've got the documents, just because there's lots of details they mention in there that we won't have time to read through every little bit. And so that'll help. Yeah, so I know this is probably quite a lot. I will send you guys the PDF. I'll PDF the presentation and send it so you have it, and recordings, and we'll keep working through this next week. I hope people aren't too overwhelmed. It will get easier and things will get repeated if this was a lot. It's a lot to do in one day, I realize. I was gonna do one-word thoughts, but I'll save them for next week, and I'll let everybody go because it's Friday afternoon and we're over time. But thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, look forward to working on some more with you next week. Please feel free to also send feedback or questions and stuff, and I'll look at things on Wednesday next week.
Thank you.
Bye, Cornelia.